Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Okay, so today we're making prime rib in the oven. Now this recipe is great if you are looking for something to eat during the holidays, if you're looking for something to eat during a party, if you're looking just for something to eat that tastes amazing. And let me tell you, prime rib tastes amazing. It's one of my wife's favorite things to eat. She's been bugging me for about 4 years to make it ever since we made it during Easter. And today is the day. So here's what you're gonna need. Here is what you're gonna need for this recipe. You're gonna need a nice, big, juicy piece of prime rib, which is what we have right here. This is about 5 pounds. You're gonna need some fresh thyme, which is what we have right here in the ramekin, 2 tablespoons. You're gonna use a pink Himalayan salt, and right here it's about 3/4 of a tablespoon of that. We're gonna be using some coarse black ground pepper. This is 1 tablespoon. And of course, 1 tablespoon of rosemary, 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, which is right here. You can actually use fresh garlic if you want, but we had a huge jar in the fridge, so this is a little bit easier for us. 8 ounces of grass-fed butter, salted. You could use regular butter, but using grass-fed just gives you a whole nother flavor that you really can't imitate with just normal store-bought butter. I mean, this is store-bought, but it's like, this was like $8 for 8 ounces, which is more than gold, really. And some avocado oil. We're gonna use about 1/4 of a cup of that. So I forgot to mention that you're gonna need chicken broth and beef broth. So that is something else you're gonna need for this recipe. We're gonna use a 1/2 cup of each. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to cooking this amazing prime rib in the oven. So the first thing we're gonna do is take the avocado oil and we're gonna put 1/4 of a cup into the mixing bowl. Then we're gonna add the 8 ounces of butter. And make sure it's soft because we're gonna have to mix it up. So after you put the butter into the oil, we're gonna actually whisk it up. So you want it to get pretty foamy or frothy. After it looks kind of like this, we're gonna put in the garlic. Then we're gonna add the rosemary. And we're gonna add the fresh thyme. Well, this thyme wasn't fresh, but you know what I'm saying. Then let's add the pepper and the salt. And then go ahead and mix it for about 2 minutes. It's gonna be quite the forearm workout. My forearm is burning. So while we're mixing this up, I actually want you to preheat the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit bake. So it's gonna take a little bit of time to get to that temperature. So that's about what it should look like when it is ready for the next step. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the meter plus, which is right here, and I'm gonna stick it into the roast. Now you don't have to do this step, but I just like to know what the internal temperature is of my cook at all times. So again, this isn't a necessary step, but you wanna go ahead and put it, if you have one, or a meat thermometer, into the center of the, what is this called, a rump? Just a roast. Yeah.
Prime rib roast.
Prime rib roast. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint. We're gonna use the mixture we just made, and we're gonna like slather it all over this, covering every single square inch. So we're gonna put this onto the roast now, and we wanna start with the back, where the bones are, because we're gonna actually flip it over when we cook it. So that is pretty much what it should look like when it's all painted. It's gonna look a little excessive once you get it completely painted, but the end product is completely worth it, so just trust me on this one. So we're gonna take the chicken broth and beef broth, and we're gonna put about 1/2 cup of each one in here, and we're just gonna pretty much eyeball it. So now we're going to do something that is optional. We're gonna put some vegetables in here. You don't have to do this, that's why I didn't mention them at the beginning of the video, but it just makes for a nice little, they won't be healthy after you cook them in here, but they're gonna taste really good. So we're gonna cut up some celery. And make sure you don't put it on the actual meat, you put it in the broth. And then we're also gonna throw some carrots in there. And because you can't go wrong with some good old Brussels sprouts, we're gonna chuck some of those in here too. I love Brussels sprouts. Some people say it's an acquired taste, but maybe that's just how fancy people like food. Maybe not fancy, but like sophisticated, but yeah, I don't think I'm sophisticated either, so maybe just cool people like them. That's what I'm gonna go with. I'm not cool either. Okay, so this is what it should look like now that it's all ready. We're going to wait for the oven to preheat to 500. And we're gonna stick this rump, God, I keep calling it a rump. We're gonna wait for the oven to preheat to 500 degrees, and then we're gonna stick this roast into the oven for, cook time is 5 minutes per pound at 500 degrees. So this is 5 pounds roughly. So 5 times 5 is 25. So 25 minutes we're gonna put in there. And once the timer goes off, we're gonna just turn the timer off and turn the oven off. And then we do not open the door for 2 hours. We let it cook the rest of the way in the oven as it's cooling off for 2 hours. And when you get done with a 2 hour wait, trust me, this is gonna be the best prime rib you've had in your entire life. And if you're like 90 years old, that's a pretty good prime rib. That wasn't funny either? No. Okay, well, disregard that joke. I'm still gonna leave it in though. I think it was funny. Oh, and if you're like 1 and this is the first prime rib you've ever had, it'll be the best one you've had also. No? Okay. We'll leave the comedy to the comedians. Okay, it's time to throw this in the oven. Like we said, oh, it is warm. We said 25 minutes because it's 5 minutes per pound. Okay, so the 500 degree method, I should have mentioned this before. It only works if your oven doesn't have a cooling fan. If your oven has a cooling fan, it will not work because it will cool down the inside of the oven and you won't be able to cook it with the residual heat. With that being said, you want to cook it to an internal temperature of around 135 degrees, and the first half of this method, like you won't turn it to 500, you'll preheat the oven to 375 and you'll cook it until it reaches 135 degrees on the inside. With that being said, it's already rested because it's been in the oven for the 500 degrees for 25 minutes and then 2 hours in the oven. So that let it rest in the oven. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna move it onto a cutting board and we're gonna cut into it and show you how it is. But the vegetables in here are amazing. I've already ate like 6 of them. So anyway, we're gonna move it over and we'll get on to the final step, which is cutting into this. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, including myself. We're gonna cut into this bad boy. Now we do have some bones in here. We have 2 bones. So the wife doesn't like the outside pieces. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut down here and cut down here, and she can get the middle piece. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I don't know, I might have to move the camera around a little bit. No, you can see it pretty well. So there you go. That is how you make prime rib in the oven with the 500 degree method. And if you have an oven with a cooling fan, you have to cook it the traditional way at 375 until the internal temperature reaches 134 degrees. So if you like this video, I want you to like it, share, subscribe. 614 Life, peace, and you're welcome.